Have you ever felt that as a Muslim woman, there are not enough Islamic programs out there dedicated to just you? Have you ever had questions run through your mind about your role as a Muslim woman, your rights and responsibilities, or just general matters? Just Us Women is a program dedicated to you, the Muslim woman. Islam Life Radio has tailored Just Us Women to meet the needs of our Muslim sisters in order for them to gain authentic knowledge. Our host and teacher for this program, Ummu Maahir Ismaa'eel, will deliver and expand your minds on various topics related to women's fiqh, motivational talks, and how to be among the best women to earn Allah Azza wa Jal's pleasure in this life and the next, inshaAllah. So be sure to join us every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Just Us Women, brought to you by IslamLifeRadio.com.
Have you ever thought about what it takes to know the ledge? People say, know the ledge. What does that exactly mean? Well, let me see if I can sum it up for you in a short poem. Now is the time to show greatness and uplift. With knowledge and wisdom, we share the ultimate gift. We recognize our Creator who provides and sustains us, who gives our life balance and constantly maintains us. Our broadcast to the people is molded by truth. For the men and the women, and especially the youth, we reach out to those from all walks of life, no matter where you come from and no matter the type. Our goal is quite simple, and that's education and unity. With a smile and the salams, we embrace our community. There is no secret to success, just a desire to learn, because the blessings of Allah is what we seek to earn. So lend us an ear and bring an open mind, and be cautious, not careless, and be aware of the times. All it takes is one slip if you're living on life's edge, and unfortunately some fall because they don't know the ledge.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Are you experiencing a difficult situation? Going through stress, anxiety, confusion, or even depression? Perhaps something's troubling you and you don't know who to ask and where. Maybe you've done a sin and you don't know how to deal with it to make everything better and redeem yourself. You might even be wanting to consider marriage and have someone in mind, but don't know how to take the matter forward in a halal way. Are you looking for advice and guidance, which is also Islamically sound and authentic? If so, then your prayers have been answered. Islam Life Radio is now offering a free, confidential, anonymous, impartial, and non-judgmental counseling service based on the Quran and authentic Sunnah. Email us now at counseling@islamliferadio.com.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum, dear sisters. Welcome to part 10 of the series of Fataawaa al-Mar'a. In this segment, we continue the rulings regarding marriage. And in this segment, we begin with the question that was posed to Sheikh Ibn Jibreen. And the question is as follows: what is the ruling concerning letters or correspondence between young men and women, given that these correspondences do not contain any lewdness, passion, or amorous flavor? So the Shaykh Rahimullah responded by saying, it is not allowed for a man to have correspondence with any woman whom he is not related to. This is because this is a source of temptation. The one involved may think that there is no temptation involved, but the devil may continue to work on him until he becomes enticed by her and her by him. The Prophet ﷺ ordered that the one who heard about the Antichrist's arrival should remain far away from him. He said that a man will come to him as a believer, but the Antichrist, or known as the Dajjal, will keep working on him until he tempts him. Similarly, correspondence between young men and women is a great temptation and something very much to be avoided. One must refrain from it, even if he claims that there is no lewdness or passion involved. As for correspondence between men and women, or between women and women, there is, let's correct that. As for correspondence between men and men, or between women and women, there is no harm in that, as long as such correspondence does not contain anything forbidden. Now we turn to another question that was posed to Sheikh Ibn al-Jibreen. And this question, a woman hired a lawyer to help her get her share of inheritance from her father. The lawyer charged her an amount larger than what she possessed. So he asked her to marry him due to the services he rendered for her. However, the woman was already married. Her husband was not present as he was out of the country. So that woman hired the same lawyer to have her marriage annulled. This was done without the husband being contacted in any manner. Although the wife had his address and he used to send money to her to support her and their daughter of 11 years and son of 8 years. What is the ruling concerning that marriage? Who has the right to take custody of that boy and that girl? So Sheikh Ibn al-Jibreen, rahimahullah, he responded by saying, there is no question that what was done was illegal, a heinous crime, and a malicious attempt to get around the law. The woman was still under the marriage ties with her husband. He was still supporting her and their children. The lawyer only attempted to dissolve this marriage so that he could marry her, even though he had every ability to contact the first husband and see what was his excuse for not being with her. Therefore, if this marriage was nullified by a Sharia judge after the causes and mandate for it were proven, then the marriage from the first husband is dissolved by the act of the judge. Otherwise, what was done was forbidden. Therefore, she would still be considered the wife of the first husband, and the second marriage would be considered forbidden. As for the children, they stay with the mother. If the second husband refuses them, their custody goes to her closest relative or relatives of their father. If the husband returns soon, he can seek whatever he sees fit in this matter. So again, that was answered by Sheikh Ibn al-Jibreen. So we now turn to a question regarding burdening the wife with toilsome and difficult work. So then this question, it was posed to Sheikh Ibn al-Jibreen, was as follows. I read in a newspaper a fatwa, which is a religious ruling, from one of the scholars who said that it is not obligatory for the wife to serve a husband, and such does not actually fall under the marriage contract, which only implies his right to enjoy his wife sexually. As for her serving him, this is a type of good behavior from her only. He also said that it is obligatory upon the man to provide a servant for his wife if he does not serve her or she does not serve herself for any reason. Is this correct? If it is not correct, then I thank Allah that this newspaper is not widespread, as otherwise some husbands would become like bachelors when their wives would read that fatwa. So the Sheikh, Ibn al-Jibreen, he responded by saying, rahimahullah, the fatwa is not correct and it is not to be acted upon. The wives of the companion used to serve their husbands. Asma bint Abu Bakr narrated how she served her husband as Zubayr ibn al-Awwam. Similarly, Fatima used to serve Ali. Such was the case with others also. The custom of the Muslims continues to be that the wife serves the husband in a customary fashion with respect to preparing food, washing clothing, and washing utensils, cleaning the house, and even watering and milking animals and helping in the farm. All of this is with respect to the customs of the people that have continued since the time of the Prophet ﷺ until our times without it being refuted. However, one should not burden one's wife with work that is toilsome and hard upon her. This is determined by her abilities and custom. So again, it is the custom of, look at this fatwa from the Sheikh. It is the custom of the Muslims dating back to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ for the wives to serve their husbands. And the Sheikh did caution, however, that the husband does not give her more than she can bear. So we now look at another question was posed to the Sheikh. This question is regarding wedding processions with the bride and the groom together. So the Sheikh was asked, rahimahullah, is it allowed to have a wedding procession with the groom being with the bride among the women during the wedding party? So Sheikh Ibn al-Jibreen, he responded by saying that act is not allowed. It is an indication that modesty has been lost. It is also an imitation of the people of obscenity and lewdness. In fact, the matter is very clear. The groom is too shy to be brought in front of the people. Then how is he going to be brought in front of those in attendance? So this is something that is widespread. We've completed the Sheikh's ruling here. And I just want to comment that this is something that is widespread, and it's something I have seen my own eyes overseas. I was a bit surprised about that. So I avoided those kinds of weddings. After I would begin to inquire, will the groom be entering into the wedding party? So this is something that should be avoided. It is something that's widespread. However, this idea of the husband and the wife marching in together in front of the people, this is something that comes from the non-Muslims, and it is not the way of the Muslims. So we should avoid that. Now we look at another question that has been posed here to the Sheikh, and it is regarding a Muslim woman being wed to a disbeliever. So then the Sheikh was asked, is it allowed for a Muslim woman to marry a Muslim man who embraced Islam simply because of her? That is, he asked her to marry him and told her that he would leave his religion and enter Islam. Please help me, for I know that I am the only reason that he entered into Islam. So the Sheikh responded, again, that's Sheikh Ibn Jibreen, he responded by saying, it is not allowed for a Muslim woman to marry a non-Muslim man. And this is because Allah has stated in the interpretation, they, meaning Muslim women, are not lawful for them, meaning the disbelievers, nor are they, the disbelievers, lawful for them. And this is found in Mumtahina. So, also, he brought an evidence from Allah, from Al-Baqarah, which is interpreted, and give not, meaning Muslim women, in marriage to the polytheists until they believe, and verily a believing slave is better than a polytheist, even though he pleases you. So the Sheikh has brought two articles of evidence from the Quran here regarding this matter. So then he wanted to explain, if he enters into Islam and truly practices Islam, then it is allowable. However, he must be tested first to make sure that he performs his prayers, fasts, and other acts of worship. Also, he must be learning the Quran, learning the laws of Islam, abandoning shirk, avoiding alcohol, and all other forbidden acts. He should also change his religion on his passport and identification papers. One should wait for some time after he embraces Islam to make sure that he is truly a Muslim and has not simply embraced Islam as a trick to be able to marry the woman. Otherwise, he said, afterwards he may apostate as soon as he gets married. And if he does that, he must then be killed. For the Prophet ﷺ said, the one who changes his deen is to be killed. Again, the Prophet ﷺ said, the one who changes his deen is to be killed. Now, of course, this is for the matter of the, regarding this matter, this is something that's to be handled by the religious authorities. And of course, this is in the countries that are adhering to the Sharia. Okay, so no one, let's not misinterpret that to say that we're encouraging people to go out and kill people because they changed their deen. So and again here we want to look at the fact that the Sheikh said, this is Sheikh Ibn al-Jibreen, so he said here that he must be tested first. This is a man who wants to marry a Muslim woman. It's not just simple, he makes the shahada, he pronounces a statement out of his mouth, and they just get married. This is not what's being encouraged here. He said that he must be tested to make sure that he performs his prayers, his fast, and other acts of worship. And then he said he should also be learning the Quran. He said he must, as a matter of fact, he said he must be learning the Quran, learning the laws of Islam, abandoning shirk, avoiding alcohol, and all other forbidden acts. So we want to think about this, be mindful of this, sisters, because, a lot of times it's unfortunate, and I mentioned this before, that it gets so difficult out here sometimes, and you might become impatient with waiting for a decent Muslim husband to come along. That shaitan, especially if you're out here working amongst the non-Muslim men, or you're in school with the non-Muslim men. Now here comes Iblis, and he is clever. Here comes Iblis, and he is clever, and he says to you, well, he's a decent guy. He's got an education. He's got a good job, so I can help him become Muslim. Don't fool yourselves. This is the trap of Iblis. Don't fool yourselves. The Sheikh said, make sure that he's already adhering to this deen with the due diligence that it deserves. And learning the Quran is one of those. It's important. They should be, this man, or all the Muslim men for that matter, should be somewhere in a masjid where there is a Quran teacher learning the Quran, so that they are able to, one, be able to read it for themselves in the Arabic. And we say the Quran, we mean in Arabic and not in interpretation. But they should be in a setting where they are learning actually to read the Quran for themselves and with understanding, so they can impart this information onto their children. Once you're married to this man, now he's responsible for your education predominantly, and for the education of the children. So it's important that he has these matters underneath his belt himself. So have some patience, sisters, and do not feel that you can make a man a Muslim. Only Allah makes Muslims. We don't make Muslims. We support them. We can give them information, our husbands that is, but we don't make Muslims. Our job is to be good Muslim wives. So be patient and wait for Allah to bring you a good Muslim man for your marriage. And may Allah bring our sisters good, strong Muslim men as husbands. Ameen. So now we have another ruling here from Sheikh Ibn al-Jibreen. This one is regarding, again, a Muslim woman marrying a non-Muslim, but at this time, we're talking specifically about a Christian man. So the question was asked, what is the ruling concerning the marriage of a Muslim woman with a Christian man? What is the ruling concerning the children of such a marriage? What is the ruling concerning the one who gave the permission for such a marriage to take place? What is the ruling concerning the wife if she knew that such a marriage was invalid? Should she have the legal punishment inflicted upon her or not? If the husband embraces Islam, what is the ruling concerning the first marriage agreement? And how do we make a new marriage contract? So the Sheikh responded by saying, it is not permissible for a Muslim woman to marry a Christian man or other male disbeliever, or any other male disbeliever. And then the Sheikh brought the evidence again. He's from Al-Baqarah, verse 2:1, and as is interpreted, and give not, meaning Muslim women, in marriage to the mushrikeen until they believe. Hatta yu'minu, until they believe. And he also brought from Mumtahina again, the verse 10 from Mumtahina, as it is interpreted, they, meaning Muslim women, are not lawful for them, meaning disbelievers, nor are they, the disbelievers, lawful for them. Then the Sheikh went on to explain the marriage must be annulled as soon as possible if such a wedding has taken place. Again, the marriage must be annulled as soon as possible if such a wedding has taken place. If the woman knew about the ruling beforehand, she is liable for a legal punishment. And then he said, similarly, the guardian, the witnesses, and the one overseeing the wedding are to be punished if they were aware of what they were doing. If she gives birth, the children follow the mother in Islam. If the man becomes Muslim after the contract, a new contract must be made. However, that must be made after it is made certain that his conversion is a true one. Otherwise, it may just be maneuvering around the law. If he apostates afterwards, his neck must be struck off based upon the hadith. Again, the one who changes his deen is to be killed. And again, this was answered by Sheikh Ibn al-Jibreen, rahimahullah. Now we turn to a question that was posed to Sheikh al-Uthaymeen, and regarding marriage from a distant or non-relatives. Is this something that is preferred? So the sheikh was asked, one of my relatives have come to me for the purpose of marriage, but I heard that to marry from non-relatives or distant relatives is preferred for the sake of the future of the children and other reasons. What is your opinion on that matter? So the sheikh responded, rahimahullah, responded by saying, that principle has been stated by a number of scholars. It points to the fact that genetics and heredity has an effect. There is no doubt that genetics has an effect on the physical and psychological makeup of the person. This is shown in the hadith where a man came to the Messenger of Allah alayhi salam and said, my wife has given birth to a black child. He was opposing that child because of all of his ascendants were of light skin. The Messenger of Allah alayhi salam told him, do you own camels? And he said, yes. And then the Prophet alayhi salam said, what color are they? And he said, red. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam asked him, is there a dusky one among them? He said, yes. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam then said, how has that come about? The man replied, it is perhaps due to the strain to which it has reverted. So the Prophet ﷺ told him, perhaps that son of yours is due to the strain to which it has reverted. This is evidence that genetics has an effect, and there is no doubt about that. However, the Prophet ﷺ also said, a woman is married for 4 reasons: for her wealth, for her lineage, for her beauty, for her deen. So try to marry one who is religious. May your hands be smeared with dust. The sheikh concluded by saying, therefore, the most important matter in proposing to a woman is her piety. The more religious she is and the more beautiful she is, then the better she is, regardless if she be a close relative or distant, meaning a non-relative. The religious woman will protect the man's wealth, children, and house. Beauty fulfills his needs and lowers his gaze, and he will not look to others. And Allahu A'lam, as the Sheikh concluded his fatwa. So now we turn to a question that was presented to Sheikh Uthaymeen rahimahullah regarding a daughter being forced into marriage by the father. So the question, I have a half-sister from my father. My father married her to a man without her approval and without taking her opinion. She is 21 years old. The witnesses made a false witness stating that she had agreed to the marriage. Her mother signed instead of her on the marriage contract. This is how the marriage was finalized. Until now, she still refuses this marriage. What is the ruling concerning that marriage contract and those who gave false testimony? So a Sheikh Al-Uthaymeen, he responded by saying, if that sister were virgin and her father compelled her to marry that man, then according to some scholars, that marriage is valid. They are of the opinion that a father may compel his daughter to marry someone she does not want if he is suitable. However, the stronger opinion on this question is that it is not allowed for a father or anyone else to compel a young lady to get married to one she does not want, even if he is suitable. The proof for this is in the Prophet's statement, alayhi salam, when he said, a virgin must not be married until her permission is sought. A virgin must not be married until her permission is sought. And this statement is general and there is no exception to it for any of the possible guardians. In Sahih Muslim, it is recorded as a virgin's father seeks her permission. So the Sheikh went on to explain, this version makes specific mention of the virgin girl and the father. This is a clear text on his disputed issue, and what is stated must be followed. Therefore, It is forbidden for a man to compel his daughter to marry a man that she does not want to marry, and the act that is forbidden cannot be valid or implemented. This is because it being considered valid or implemented flies in the face of it being prohibited. If the lawgiver forbids something, it means that the people cannot do it. If we then say it is valid, this means that we are accepting it, acting upon it, and giving it the same status as a contract that is approved by the Sharia. Based on this stronger opinion, the marriage by your father of your sister to one she does not want is an invalid marriage. The contract is null and void. The case must be taken to a court of law. And as for those who gave false witness, they have committed one of the great sins. It is confirmed that the Prophet ﷺ said, "Let me inform you of the greatest of great sins. Shall I inform you? Shall I inform you of the greatest of great sins?" He then mentioned them. At the time he was reclining, and then he sat up straight and said, "And certainly false witness is one of them. And certainly false witness. And certainly false witness." So he repeated this 3 times. And then they wanted to say, he continued to repeat that until they said, with that he would be quiet. So again, he repeated this statement 3 times. And certainly false witness is one of them. And certainly false witness. And certainly false witness. This should show the gravity, sisters, of this matter. So Shaykh Uthaymeen went on to say, those who gave false witness must repent to Allah, state the truth, and make it clear to the Sharia judge that they gave false witness and that they are now taking back what they stated. Similarly, the mother who falsely signed on behalf of her daughter is sinful. She must repent to Allah and not repeat such an act ever again. So we turn now to a question posed to Shaykh Al-Uthaymeen regarding the marriage with the intention of divorcing after a period of time. So the Shaykh was asked, a person is going abroad to study and he wants to protect his chastity there by getting married for a specific period of time. Afterwards, he will divorce his wife, although he does not inform her that he is planning on divorcing after a specific period of time. What is the ruling concerning such behavior? So the Sheikh responded by saying, marriage with the intention of divorce must fall into one of 2 cases. First, it is explicitly stipulated in the marriage contract that the marriage is for a month, year, until he finishes his studies and so forth. This is known as mut'ah. The second case, this is known as mut'ah, and this is forbidden. Now the second case is where the person has that as his intention, meaning this is his intention in his heart, but it is not put as a stipulation in the contract. The widespread opinion among the Hanbalis is that that is forbidden and the contract is void. And they say that what is intended is equivalent to what is actually stipulated. Since the Prophet ﷺ said, actions are based on intentions, and for everyone is what he intended. The Shaykh went on to explain, they also say that if a man marries and plans on divorcing a thrice divorced woman simply in order to make her permissible for her previous husband, that marriage is not valid, even if what was intended is not stipulated in the marriage contract. Again, this is because what is intended is like what is stipulated. So, if the intention of making the wife legal for her previous husband makes the contract null and void, the intention to perform something similar to mut'ah also makes the contract null and void. This is the opinion of the Hanbalis. So, we want to be careful of, just a quick comment here. What's being stated here is that a husband and wife were married, and the husband pronounced talaq on her, and then they got back together again. and then he pronounced talaq one more time. He divorced her one more time. She went into iddah, and then he took her back again, took her out of iddah again, and then he pronounced divorce for a third time. And so this third divorce is irrevocable. It stands. So some people try to be clever and befool the believers, befool Allah and the believers, but they befool themselves because they want to have her marry another man just so that she now is free to return to him. Because the clause in this is that she cannot return to him in a new contract. Once these 3 divorces have been pronounced, and make this clear, once these 3 divorces have been pronounced, then she cannot return to him in a third contract, after that, third talaq. So the clause is that she must marry someone else first, another man. But that marriage is a marriage with the intention to be married to this man, and then for some reason it doesn't work out. But she really intended to be married to this man as a true wife. What this sheikh is talking about here is they are trying to be slick. She wants her to go and marry some man just to say that she was married to this other man and now she can return to him. So this is what he's talking about here. Now let's go back to what the sheikh is explaining. The second opinion among the scholars is that it is permissible for the man to marry that woman with the intention that he will divorce her after he leaves her land, such as those who go to the West to study or for other purposes. And they say that it is sound because it is not stipulated in the contract, and this distinguishes it from mut'ah. Furthermore, in the case of mut'ah, he says, as soon as the period finishes, the two are separated, whether they still want that or not. In this case, though, it could be the case that he desires his wife and decides to remain with her. This is one of the opinions held by Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah. So Shaykh al-Taymiyyah, he concluded by saying, in my opinion, such a marriage is not mut'ah since it does not meet the definition of mut'ah. However, it is still forbidden since it is a type of deception of the wife and her family. The Prophet ﷺ has forbidden deception. If the woman knew that the man only intends to be married with her for that specific time, he would not agree to the marriage, nor would her family. In the same way, he would not be pleased to marry his daughter to a man who intends to divorce her when he has fulfilled his needs from her. How can he be pleased with doing to others what he would not be pleased to have done to himself? This goes against the foundation of faith. The Prophet ﷺ said, none of you truly believes until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself. This sheikh went on to say, I have also heard that this opinion has led some people to do something that none of the scholars would be in agreement with. That is, some people travel to such lands with the sole purpose of performing such a marriage, and then they return to their countries. This is also a greatly forbidden act. Therefore, one must close the door that leads to such a possible practice. Furthermore, the acts contain deception and cheating, and it opens a very dangerous door since people in general are ignorant, and most of the people's desires will not keep them from violating what Allah has prohibited. This is the conclusion of the Sheikh's statements. And I'm reminded of some da'is, and Allah knows best who they are, but this is circulated in the internet where we see some da'is who have gone to various countries on the lecture circuit and giving lectures and so forth and marrying women in those countries, and then when they are done they go right back home and they divorce the woman from their own country or something like this, sending her some message of divorce or whatever once he's back home. Sisters, be careful marrying people outside of your own country. This is an advice that I always give to young women. Be careful of marrying men from outside of your own country. So much heartbreak. I'm not saying that there aren't some successful marriages. No, I'm not saying that, but the vast majority of them, the women are being taken advantage of. So be very careful, and certainly make istikhara before marrying anyone, and consult with your mahrams and your wali and the people who are over you and guardians that are guiding you, so that you can avoid such heartache. And certainly with Allah is all success. So now we look at a question that has been posed to Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen regarding the marriage with the greatest blessings, and that is the one with the lesser financial burden. So the question was asked of Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, rahimahullah, what is your opinion of the large dowries and expensive parties and honeymoons that cost a great deal of money? Does the Sharia approve of such things? So Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, he said, having very expensive dowries and extravagant wedding parties is something that goes against the Sharia. The marriage that has the greatest blessings is the one with lesser financial burden. Anytime the burdens are lessened, the blessings are increased. This is a matter that is many times caused by women. Women are the ones that often insist upon their husbands to set a very high dowry for their daughters. If a lesser dowry is offered, they will say that their daughter is deserving of such and such. Furthermore, expensive and luxurious wedding parties are prohibited by the Sharia. They fall under the command of the verse when Allah stated in Surah Al-An'am, be not, as is interpreted, but be not extravagant. Verily Allah does not love those who are extravagant. Verily, He, meaning Allah, does not love those who are extravagant. The Sheikh went on to say, again, many times it is the women who force their husbands to do such things. They say that in so-and-so's party they had this and that. However, such gatherings must be according to the Sharia. The person should not spend what is beyond his means. He must also never be extravagant, for Allah has prohibited extravagance when He stated, verily, He, meaning Allah, does not love those who are extravagant. The Sheikh said, honeymoons are worse and even more evil. This is because they are an imitation of non-Muslims. They also are a waste of lots of wealth. It also leads people to being lax with respect to their religious duties when such honeymoons take place in non-Muslim areas. The people come back with customs and behaviors that are harmful for them and for the Muslim community. This is something that is to be feared for the Ummah. However, there is no harm, Allah willing, if a man travels with his wife to make Umrah or to visit Medina. So this concludes the Sheikh's statements. And so we want to be aware of this, that doesn't creep into our lives as well. It's easy to caught up and be, as we say, keeping up with the Joneses. Such and such had this at her wedding, and they had it at this hotel, and they did this and they did that. It's easy to get caught up in that. So let's be careful in that matter regarding the dowries. But at the same time, sisters, there is a balance with the dowries. The lesser dowry is better. However, you can request a reasonable dowry, because many times the women in the West barely request anything and it's deferred, and then when they want to pull out, there's nothing. They never even got the dowry that was even requested, being it was deferred, or it was something that was very, very menial. So I mean, in any case, you have the right to request a reasonable dowry, but don't make it so high that it's a burden upon the man. And at the same time, you can make it so that you yourself feel comfortable with what you asked for, and do make sure that you got your dowry. Do make sure that you get the dowry. Now we look at a question that was posed to the Sheikh regarding choosing a husband. So Sheikh Uthaymeen was asked again, what are the most important considerations a young lady should make when choosing a husband? If she refuses someone simply for economic or worldly reasons, Will that expose her to the punishment of Allah? So the Sheikh responded by saying, the most important attributes that a woman must look for in selecting a husband are character and piety. Wealth and lineage are secondary considerations. The most important aspect is that the proposed groom be a person of piety and proper behavior. The person of proper behavior and piety will not do his wife wrong. Either he will keep her in a way that is proper, or he will leave her to go free in the best way. Furthermore, the person of religion and behavior may be a blessing for her and her children. She may learn manners and religion from him. If he does not have those characteristics, she should stay away from him, especially if he is one of those who is lax with respect to performing the prayers, or if he is known to drink alcohol. May Allah save us. As for those who never pray, they are disbelievers. Believing women are not permissible for them, nor are they permissible for the believing women. The important point is that the woman should stress character and piety. If he is also of a noble lineage, that is to be preferred. This is due to the Messenger of Allah's statement when he said, if a person whose deen and character you approve of comes to you, then marry him. The Sheikh said, however, if he is also suitable in other ways, meaning economically or so forth, that is better. So this is the conclusion of the Sheikh's statement. Now, something that's been mentioned here a couple times in the various fatwas are if he is known to drink alcohol. So we know that over here in the West, and this has creeped over even into the Middle East, a lot of young men are getting high on other substances. They're getting high on marijuana. They're getting high on various kinds of narcotics and so forth. And much of this is not hidden, by the way. Much of this, if you're living in your community, you know, these kind of things are not hidden like that. People know who's doing what. So one more time, sisters, don't think that you can change a man. If you know this individual gets high on narcotics or alcohol or whatever the case may be, or you know this person is not praying in the masjid, don't belittle yourself, and don't have false hope that this person is going to just, up and be good and righteous. It doesn't work like that. Most of the times it does not work like that. Any miracle can happen. But as we mentioned, as the Sheikh mentioned early on in a fatwa, Sheikh Ibn Jabrin, then make sure this person is doing all this first. And a lot of our issues for my sisters over here in America, amongst the reverts anyway, and especially among the African American reverts, is that because we have so few Muslim men, we tend to settle for we tend to settle for men who are incarcerated. And then we get ourselves married to these men while they are incarcerated. When they are able to write beautiful letters with all kinds of Arabic and beautiful religious speech. And then when these men come home, very often, and you know it's the truth, very often, so I'm not being mean to anybody here, this is the case, and again, we see it over and over, that very often when these young men return home, they return right back to what they were doing before they went into the prison system. Let these young men get out and get on their feet. Let them get out and be attending the masjid, attending the prayers or the congregational prayer, wherever it is. Assure yourself that they are grounded in this deen before you get married to such individuals. Choose your husband wisely. So much heartache comes out of our impatience. We are so impatient when it comes to waiting for a husband that we sell ourselves short. Be patient. Be patient. Make dua to your Rabb and be patient. And don't get yourself into these kinds of marriages where many times these men come out, they use up the wealth. How many times we see this? They get out of jail, they use up her wealth, they ruin her car, they ruin her life, and then they're off somewhere else. No sooner they've been out for a month. So let's be careful of that matter, sisters. Choose your husband carefully based upon what has been mentioned to you by the shuyukh regarding the standard that has been set for the righteous man. Don't sell yourself short. So now we look at a question that was posed to the Sheikh regarding relationships before marriage. So he was asked, what is the view of the religion concerning premarital relations? Sheikh Uthaymeen rahimahullah responded by saying, if the questioner means by before marriage, quote unquote, before marriage, before consummation of the marriage, but after the contract, then there is no harm in such relations, since she is his wife by virtue of the contract, even though they have not consummated the marriage. However, if it is before the marriage, such as during the period of engagement or otherwise, such contact is forbidden and impermissible. Again, he said that if before the marriage, such as during the period of engagement or otherwise, such contact is forbidden and impermissible. It is not allowed for a man to enjoy a non-related woman's company, either by speech, look, or private company. It is confirmed that the Prophet ﷺ said a man cannot be alone with a woman except in the presence of one of her mahram, and a woman cannot travel except with a mahram. So the Sheikh concluded by saying, in sum, if that contact or association is after the marriage contract, there is no harm in it. If it is before the marriage ceremony, even if it is after proposal and acceptance, it is not allowed. Such behavior is forbidden for him, since the woman is a non-relative and a non-wife until they conclude the marriage contract. So again, if the contract has already been signed, then sisters, you are his wife and you can be together as much as you please. It doesn't matter. However, if the contract has not been signed, then you should be careful with being alone with this person or talking with this person. It is far safer for you to go through your wakil and to handle this properly, because that which starts off incorrect, very often it stays incorrect and it just grows out of proportion, the problems and the issues that come out of such a relationship. So start it off correctly with Allah's blessing. Now we look at a question that was posed to the Sheikh regarding coitus interruptus with the permission of the wife, and if this is a form of birth control. So it was asked, when is it allowed for a woman to use birth control pills? Is there a clear text or opinion of the jurists on birth control? Is it allowed for a Muslim to practice coitus interruptus for no reason? So the Sheikh responded by saying, Muslims must increase their numbers to the best of their ability. This is the command that the Prophet ﷺ gave to the Muslims when he said, marry the childbearing, loving woman, for I shall outnumber the peoples by you. So the Sheikh went on to say, having more children means the Muslim nation will be larger. This is an honor for the Muslim nation. Allah stated while talking about his blessings on the tribes of Israel in Surah Al-Isra, when he said, as is interpreted, we made you more numerous in manpower. Shu'aib said to his people, as it is interpreted in Surah Al-A'raf, verse 86, and remember when you were but few, and he multiplied you. The Sheikh went on to say, no one can deny that the larger the nation, the greater its honor and strength. This is the opposite of those who falsely and wrongly claim that large population is a cause for poverty and hunger. If the nation becomes larger, relies upon Allah, and believes in the promise of Allah has made, the promise Allah has made in the verse in Surah Hud, it is verse 6, as interpreted, and no moving creature is there on earth, but its provision is due from Allah. Allah will make their affairs easy for them and enrich them from his bounty. Based on that comes the answer to the question. A woman should not use birth control unless two conditions are met. The first condition is that she is in need of such a practice. For example, she may be ill and cannot sustain bearing a child every year. Her body might be weak or other causes that may make it difficult for her to be pregnant every year. The second condition is that the husband gives his permission for the practice. This is because it is the right of the husband to have children. Furthermore, they must consult with a doctor concerning those pills. They have to see if taking them or not taking them could be hazardous to her health. If these two conditions are met, there is no harm in her using those pills. But such procedures as pills or other forms must not be of a permanent nature. That is, one cannot use a form of birth control that is of a permanent nature, as that will cut off the possibility of procreation. He went on to explain, as for the second part of the question, the answer is that in reality, birth control is something that is not possible. This is because pregnancy and non-pregnancy are both in the hand of Allah. If humans try to limit their children to a specific number, it is possible that all of them may die in 1 year due to some cause, and they will be left with no children at all. Birth control is something that is not considered acceptable by the Sharia. However, temporary limitation of pregnancy due to necessity, as was mentioned above, is permissible. As for coitus interruptus, that is done for no sanctioning cause, according to the correct opinion among the scholars, it is permissible. This is based on the hadith of Jabir, who said, "We used to perform coitus interruptus during the time of that the Quran was being revealed, that is, during the lifetime of the Prophet alayhi salam. If that act were forbidden, Allah would have forbidden them from it. However, the scholars say that coitus interruptus must not be done with a free, meaning non-slave wife, except with her permission. This is because she also has the right to have children. It also reduces her sexual pleasure. The pleasure of the woman is not complete until after the male ejaculation. Therefore, for these two causes just mentioned, it is not allowed to perform coitus interruptus with one's free wife except with her consent. Now, to make that clear, so you don't have to go run and get your dictionary, for at least our younger sisters, this is referring to when a husband would withdraw himself before he ejaculates inside of his wife. This is what is meant by this. So again, birth control is not possible, the Sheikh said, unless it's with permission by Allah. Anyway, because if Allah wills for you to have a child, certainly you will have a child. We know of women who have even gotten their tubes tied and still ended up pregnant. So we need to keep that into consideration. And another thing that comes to mind here is, here in the United States, a lot of young women get their tubes tied at a very young age, with 1 or 2 children. This is a crime. And then after they revert to Islam, they get a Muslim husband, and now they want to give him kids. This is one of the most heartbreaking things I've seen. Please do not listen to what Sheikh is saying here. Please do not get your tubes tied or get your uterus taken out or any of these things that will prevent you from having children until you go for your menopause. Do not, don't do that to yourselves. It's heartbreaking. So listen to what the Sheikh had to say about that matter, because this is a serious situation and it causes so much heartbreak to so many sisters. Okay, so we'll leave this today where we are. Mashallah, tabarakallah. We've covered a lot of mashallah fatawa here. This is a wonderful collection of fatawa, and it's so useful and so beneficial. I do hope that you share these recordings with your friends, because a lot of times you might not have time to read a whole book. But I know myself, I find myself, if I can just put in a recording or something and listen to it when I'm going somewhere on my travels or whatever, and I can benefit by that, even if I'm driving or whatever the case may be. I might not be able to hold a book in my hand, but I can always listen to a recording. So please share these recordings with your sisters. Mashallah, tabarakallah, because this is a great benefit. this is a great benefit. To have all of these verdicts or rulings on a recording, and you can just pop it and listen to each one, or listen to it over and over again, or as you like, and share it with sisters when some issue comes up. There are a lot of issues that come up. Just give them the link and let them go to the recording at Islam Life Radio on YouTube, and they can find the answer right in that recording as they go on with some other chores or whatever the case may be. Again, we may not always be able to read a book, but we can pop that CD in or turn on the YouTube or whatever the case may be and get on with our housework or whatever. So it is a great benefit, and I ask Allah Ta'ala to write it for my benefit, for everyone at Islam Life Radio, for their benefit, and I ask Allah to make it a benefit for my own husband who allows me to do this every week, mashallah tabarakallah. And I ask Allah to make it a benefit for the ummah as a whole. Ameen. Subhanak Allahumma bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Exalted are you, O Allah, and all praises for you. I bear witness that there is no God except you. I ask your forgiveness and I repent to you. Ameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.